I'm Anthony. I'm from OpenStax. So glad to have you here. So glad to have Rebecca here. Thank you so much for speaking and for all your effort on this book. We're really excited to hear about it and hear your perspective on it. The One Summit has been a place where OpenStax and team have done a lot of talking, and the THCCB has done a lot of contribution as well. But I think what a lot of the attendees want to hear from, is peer to peer, nursing faculty to nursing faculty, nurse to nurse, and so on. So we're really excited to hear you, kind of share the approach of the book. I'll just kind of give some logistics of the session and some introduction, and then we'll kick off. So everybody, thanks again for joining. This session is part of the One Summit, and it will be recorded. The recording will be shared out after. We'll put it on the OpenStax YouTube channel. You'll be able to get to it from there. You'll see that information in a follow-up email. We'll also link to it from the One Summit Hub, and we'll share the links to that just in a second as I kind of go over some things. So we'll record. Feel free to put any general comments in the chat, any direct questions in the Q&A, and we'll try to, if there's ones we can answer sort of along the way, we'll do that. If not, we'll sort of wait to the end and kind of collect all those at once. You're welcome to provide any commentary you have or ask any questions about how to access the resources and so on, but we'll share some of that just in a second. Finally, if we want to create an inclusive environment, so if anybody does need captions, go ahead. You could probably find them. You should see them. There should either be a captions or show captions button on the bottom of your screen. And if you don't see it, or the bottom of your Zoom environment, if you don't see it, click the More button, and it should be under there. And you should be able to get to it there. You click captions, and that will do its best to live caption the session. So finally, I'll just kind of give us a quick overview of the resources and so on. And I know folks that have been on a lot of these sessions have probably heard of this over and over again, so I know it's a repeat. But basically, the resources are going to be available in a couple of places. The Psych-Mental Health book, as well as the other textbooks and other resources from the One program, will be available at OpenStax. And a little bit later, we'll do a show of that, sort of a presentation where you can get that. But if you go to openstax.org and click subjects, that's where you would get the information. And if you, you can also go, we'll put the link in, if you go to make to the, sorry, I'm watching the chat. I want to ask David to come in 1 second. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. Thanks so much. We're going to have another panelist join us in just a second. So the other, thanks so much for doing that. And then as well as OpenStax, the resources, as well as other information around the series and surrounding the series, as well as a place for you all to join and join discussion, join groups so that you can share information and ask each other questions. The THCCB has set up a One project hub, and we'll put the link into the chat for that as well. Finally, at the end of this session, we'll hear from Wisewire, who is a development partner on this book. And they are offering some free workshops, open workshops for you to join on mapping to curricula, mapping these courses and this specific book to curricula, as well as NCLEX preparation. We'll hear from them at the end as well. Okay, a lot of preamble from me. Thanks so much, Rebecca and David, for joining. We're so glad to have you. Like I said, we've gotten a lot of questions from nursing educators about the resources themselves and how they can be used. And the previous sessions have covered a lot of that. We're really eager to hear from you about, about your book and how you came about it. So please take it away. David, you're muted. So you just got to unmute and then.
Sorry, I was going to say, I'm glad, I was in as a observer before, so I'm glad to be in. Hope you can understand my accent. I'm obviously from Louisiana, so Scotland originally. Yeah, I've been in it from the beginning. Rebecca commenced a little bit later on, so it was kind of interesting to see the project get started. I was initially interested in it because I think basically students pay too much for textbooks. So I've always had a bit of a thing about that. And the fact that they keep getting renewed with new editions fairly frequently so they can't even use older editions. And as faculty, we get sent textbooks, but we're never told the price of them, you know. So we kind of recommend these things. We get all the resources and stuff. So I was kind of glad to help maybe contribute to lowering the costs that student have. And also, from a perspective of mental health, I'm always interested in resources that sort of take the point of view of the client, you know, trying to see the world through the client's perspective. So, and I thought this was a good opportunity to do that, to build in some activities and some focus that related to people viewing the client a bit more empathetically, if you want. And remembering the fact that we're not producing little mini me's. I know Rebecca and I have both been in mental health for quite a while, but we're not trying to make them mental health experts. Most of the people I teach, and Rebecca teaches, I'm sure, are people who are doing it as part of an undergraduate program because they're mandated to do mental health because it's going to be 9% of their NCLEX, if you want. That's one reason to start with. So not many are going to be psychiatric mental health nurses. And if they are, they'll have special preparation in that. So a lot of what we have to cover is just introductory stuff to make them good enough to be able to survive working with clients in the clinical area, and also feel confident wherever they might want to go and meet people with mental health problems, being that they're so prevalent in society. So that's kind of my background too. That's why I got enthusiastic about it and liked being involved with it and enjoyed kind of working our way on some of the project stuff we've had to do. So that's my background to it. Rebecca? You have to unmute, Rebecca.
Is that better? I had a minute there where it wouldn't let me unmute. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just going to echo what David said. I was excited about the project because I thought it was such a great opportunity to offer these textbooks for free to students, you know, just this inexpensive but very up-to-date and relevant information for them, because I think it is the cost of education. I'm also a student, so the cost of education can be really astronomical. And I think, you know, being able to bring this information to them so that they have really good, solid resources with current practice, and really good, excellent real world examples that they've incorporated throughout the text, with, again, a client focus, very recovery oriented and patient centered, was something that was really appealing to me too, and I'm proud of it.
So I think, Rebecca, as you mentioned, but the provision of the resources for teachers as well, like questions, case studies, evolving case studies, NGN type things. I think as a teacher, you're always kind of looking for those things, the little kind of gold nuts that you can use in your own teaching in the class and things, or get students to do exercises. So I think that kind of resource is very, very useful.
Mm-hmm. And we've been able to bring in some contemporary topics and things that maybe were not highlighted as much in some of the other texts that I've used. And so I think that that's been something that's been a strength of this project as well. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm wondering if, well, Josh, yeah, anybody who has questions or comments, please put in the chat. What I could do is bring up the actual resource itself on its preliminary form, and is there anything you'd like to you know, comment on regarding it, you know, anything from the table of contents to the you know, to the features and so on. I can just kind of, what I've done on we've done on some of the other sessions is sort of almost like just scroll through, almost like a bit of a, not to put you on the spot, but something like almost like a little mini tour, if that kind of works. Let me go ahead and do that. Sorry, everybody, just gotta switch over to a different screen. Okay, so and again, so you can get this at the you can get this sample at the one summit, one hub at the THCCB. And if you need it in a separate way, we can always email it to you. Actually, let me start video. Sorry, I'm being rude. You can always start. We can always send it to you or put it somewhere else. Put it in Google Drive and so on. And I'll say offhand. So this is a sample of the produced content for just a couple of chapters. And what will start to happen, as many of you might have seen on other sessions, as we have the full book available, we'll put that out as well. Of course, we just wanted to make sure we had a sample. So, as you see, our typical textbook would have some preface information about access and licensing and so on, but we're going right into the heart of it here. So, start off the table of contents. I don't know, David and Rebecca, if you have any comments about how you organize the book or anything we should keep.
Yeah, as usual with these sort of textbooks and psych, it starts off with some of the background information that students need to know, putting the field into context.
Okay, so the fundamentals, things like that.
I think one of the challenges we have, especially at the beginning, is that unlike a lot of other disciplines, we don't have a lot of concrete ideas as to what causes a lot of the conditions we work with. We've got speculation and various theories, so there's a large kind of theoretical background to it that the students don't have to know in depth, but they have to know that it's a contested area, if you like, and there's different ways to view the information that's available.
Okay, so you're saying that's probably that's the chapter 2 stuff.
Yeah, it's that sort of stuff there. Yeah, and then the basis. The basis of psych nursing is communication, isn't it? It's what Hildegard Peplow reminded us of back in the 50s, that all nursing is psych nursing. No, it all begins with communication. So we kind of highlighted that up front there. Yeah.
Okay. Just moving through. What we'll get to here are, after the table of contents, we'll get to actual samples. And then I can show where this would be on the site itself. So if there's anything to stop at and dig into, please just let me know. Okay, and so that was table of contents. You can see 28 chapters. With this current trends and then critical thinking at the end, seeming to kind of tie it together. And then to look at the actual draft content itself. Foundations. And I know if for those who have joined us on previous sessions, you've seen these before, and we're just skimming through, so not we're not going to read here, but different features such as psychosocial considerations in the clinical measurement model. Is the CJMM sort of consistent element?
Yes, you'll see that throughout the text.
This came up earlier on another session, but you'll notice in these links to learning, which is where there's all sorts of resources linked. Sometimes they're videos, sometimes they're simulations, there's reference items. But what we've done here is we have changed the link from its sort of raw link to an OpenStax short link. So if there is any change there, we'll be able to go ahead and make any adjustments to the URL, but the link that appears in the book can stay the same. So you don't know users and faculty using the book don't have to go and change anything. We'll go ahead and make the change in the back end. Okay, we've seen Chusen pretty frequently across the summit, so good to see it here too.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And you'll probably see a lot of the format and features that you've seen across the summit are also in this text, although it's specific to psych nursing. But we tried to incorporate all of that.
Let's see. Cultural context. Tougher topics. Life stage context. I'm sure that comes across.
There was a question in the Q&A session. And so this text is for your undergraduate nurses. So this is not specific to a PMHNP program. This is for your, kind of entry level nurses,
Okay.
graduate nurses.
So it seems like everybody bear with me as I'm scrolling through. I'm trying to get to the more of the features, but also the real RN stories. So these are just reflecting actual practice or situations that nurses encountered. Is this okay?
Yeah, they're great stories that kind of take everything in the chapter and put it into sort of a real life situation or example so that it's a little bit easier to understand and apply.
Gives some insight into the issues that are being yeah, it's good.
Yeah. That's nice.
And there's a question about adapting it to MSN students. I mean, I think you would have to look. I think there are things that could be adapted to it, but it is definitely written with kind of that generalist nurse perspective. David, do you want to comment on that?
No, I think that's very much the aim was to make it for the entry level nurse generalist. As I mentioned at the beginning, if they're going to move into mental health, then that's something else, isn't it? So we have to make sure that it's got to be enough information to make understanding this client group and understanding the care relevant, but not at a level that's going to swamp them because they're never going to use the information. It's got to be a level just to give them that amount of insight to be able to. But saying that, I think there's a lot of good information within the book, within the text.
I definitely think there is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think as a teacher, what you have to do is obviously usually select what you think is most relevant. But as Rebecca says, maybe some of the things that people would be interested in are some of the case studies.
Definitely. Yeah. And we do have unfolding case studies in the text that apply for several of the topics. So you can see, maybe not in the example, but there are several unfolding case studies throughout.
Yeah, you know what? I can probably. It might not. Oh, because it's coming in. Okay, it's not gonna. No, sorry, I'm not going to find it that way. Sorry, everybody. I will find it a different way. I'll do my best there. So this sample has a few different chapters in it, as you folks can see, and it just takes a second to load. Well, while we're on it, as you can see, I'll zoom out a bit because it's a little hard to read this way. So the end of chapter material, there's beyond the text itself. I'll lead into it. So lead the target a little bit. So we go through the end of the text, end of the chapter, and then get into the end of chapter material, chapter summary, key terms, and different types of assessments. And I'll mention, I know we have some other questions, but what I'll mention is, there are different environments. So OpenStax textbooks are provided in an online reader. We actually recommend that as a primary way to get the book, because that's where, sorry, I might have stopped screen sharing there. That's where the book is most accessible. It's the one that we can update the most easily and frequently, and so on. And when we say accessible in that format, we mean in all types of the word. You can get to it from anywhere. It will resize to different devices. It will work with screen readers and other types of assistive devices, and so on. It's very transportable and transferable in those ways. But we also will provide in the final format the downloadable PDFs. So another types of access is internet access. If a student doesn't have that access, they can have a version downloaded to themselves for themselves using we're on the bus or wherever they're going to be. And then finally, there's also print that's available. and if any students do want that print version.
There's a question about some of the special kind of topics, and I know that we have included some things in there. One that sticks out is how COVID-19 has kind of affected mental health and mental health care. So that's something that comes to mind, and can let David speak to anything, that he's thinking about as well. But we did try to add some newer information that we haven't seen kind of represented in other
Yeah,
texts.
and sort of questions we get asked when we're working with students, maybe on clinical stuff about, well, how do patients get involved with court treatment, and the process through the legal system, stuff like that. So we spend a bit of time kind of looking at those things as well, just knowing the sort of questions that students are always kind of interested in to make their experience more relevant.
That's great. We've got a couple of questions, some general items. Let me just make sure I'm showing that. Oh, okay. Yeah, a question about the population health and the OpenStax app. Yeah, OpenStax, we used to have an app that was a part of a partnership we had. I will say that, that app doesn't work anymore, but it did have some benefits, and I'm not saying, a different approach is a definite replacement, but the book does work really well. Most of our books work really well on mobile devices in the online view. Not the PDF view does not work as well, but the online view works a little better. We got a question from Cody about any discussion in the text about the impact of working as a nurse in a mental health setting and the need for self-care.
Yeah, I think that's mentioned a few times actually. In every chapter that's got clinical content, there's always an application for nurses as well, but also getting nurses to reflect on how they're working with that particular population. And also how nurses should care for themselves with caring with these sort of client groups and the challenges they face. And we do a little bit, for example, on alcohol, substance use, and the vulnerability that nurses have for that as well. So I think there's a sort of a theme of encouraging nurses to reflect upon themselves as to how they're dealing with particular patients or particular clients or particular situation. Yeah.
And then we have some sections that are kind of about self-care strategies and things like that, as well as it being interwoven into the specific topics.
That's wonderful.
It's a great question. It's so relevant and important right now as we're seeing all the burnout and everything.
Yeah.
We definitely also made sure it was part of it.
Psych's often a little bit different as well, the way we go about things and the sort of, the things that we are focusing on and whatever. So it always makes things a little bit challenging, if you want. And sometimes it's hard for students to get their heads around that.
Oops, sorry. Oh no, I wasn't speaking. We're getting a couple questions about the access. So maybe what I'll do, and in case anybody has any more questions, you can, put them in the chat or the Q&A while I'm showing this. But I'll show the. Let me make sure I get to it first. I'll show the two sites. I'll show the two sites, the hub and the OpenStax page, in just a second. I'll start off with the hub.
Sorry, that seemed to be
anybody has
that system. I think kicked me out again there, so I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, there we go. Share that. Okay, actually, I'm going to go to the other site. Okay, so as we mentioned, and as Amanda had just put it in the chat, there's the hub that you can go to. So you have this link. It's in the chat. This is available and it's all open for everybody's participation. Just taking you through this site briefly. On the top, you'll see material about the general information about the One Nursing Essentials, but also the summit itself. as we scroll down just a little bit. And you can see right now, since the summit is going on, we're very focused on the summit and the summit schedule. What you'll see here linked are other information about the summit and so on afterwards, and resources, links coming out of the summit. To get to the samples themselves, if you just scroll down on that page a bit, you'll see the different samples of the different books. Some of these are the full text, like the population health, and some of them are briefer samples, like the psychiatric-mental health nursing that we're showing a few minutes ago. And they are, you'll see the table for all of them, even the briefer samples. You'll see the table of contents and a few sample chapters in design, with graphics and so on. But they're all subject to further accuracy checking, evaluation. We really like to take multiple steps through these processes. I can talk a little bit about the steps we go through, but it's a lot of preparation, and then faculty development, writing, development, editing, reviewing, extensive reviewing, moving into revision, and then finalization. So that's the processes that are, especially later, we're in the later stages of those processes on all the books, or the very late stages of those processes for some of them, like nutrition is about to publish, basically. But that's where we are. So that's why you're seeing samples, and you'll see those samples sort of grow in a way over some time and be replaced by the final book or a more extensive sample. And then on the bottom of the hub, if you keep scrolling down, you'll see these different groups that you could join. And these groups probably are not very populated right now because the books haven't published yet. And we just started talking about them just during this summit. So 7 members in the Psych Mental Health group, which is great. When we set up these groups, the TTCB and ICSME set up these groups, we get into the dozens and hundreds of members and so on. So we'll start to see that increase. But what can happen here is a discussion. A lot of the conversations about how people are using the resources, or how you won't see any. You'll just see some basic, thanks, Carrie. Some initial discussions starting off, but what we'll see are people sharing their resources. If they have remixed it, if they have applied it to a certain type of program, like an MSN program or something, they'll start posting or asking each other questions or sharing ideas or sharing resources. And so you can go there, do that yourself, ask questions of each other and so on. It forms a nice community. And we have them around, all the textbooks that are in the series. And there are others of these communities around on the OERTX for different types of courses and different types of conversations and ways of teaching too. Let me just.
There was a question in the chat about firewall settings, and I'm afraid that's not my area of expertise, so I cannot help with that. But maybe you can.
I hope we're okay. I'm just looking for that. All right, if I missed it, firewall control. This is far southern. Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Okay, let me try if I can just scroll up a little bit. Oh, I get it. Okay, so us being able to put those right in the chat, I get it. I think reaching some of those might be difficult if you're not, maybe if you're in a different place. That's part of access, is making sure we can get our materials to everyone. So we'll go ahead and do that. So that's the one hub. And then for OpenStax, and again, I know, so if you go to openstax.org, there's a lot of resources you can get here before we even get into the textbooks. There's help, and a great customer support team will be available to provide any support and guidance, any information about the text, how you can use them, in different systems and browsers and alongside technology and so on. Any information you need about the book, we can provide that. We also provide, as we're showing here, webinars and technology resources and so on. And if you want to get to the books themselves, as you can see, OpenStax publishes a number of different textbooks in different arenas, business and humanities and math and science. If you wanted to obviously click the nursing, what you'll see right now is a page with a few of the books linked, and then sort of the other sections filled out, but not populated with books yet. But this is where you would go to see and find the books as well. You can, again, get them on the OER TX Nursing Hub too. So we'll have them in a couple of places. And then, what I'll do quickly, if it's okay, if you can all just imagine with me for a second, is if I went into a different book, let's pick A&P, because most of your nursing students have probably taken this course, and many of them have probably used this book because our book is pretty widely used. This is what a final page when the book is published looks like. So you'll see the view online, and you can see the book. Again, this doesn't exist for the nursing books yet, but you'll see it. You can see it in this context. Students can navigate, they can take notes and highlight, they can resize the text, they can search, and so on. End of chapter material is linked. I'm probably pretty small here, but you see different types of resources, and so the material that we were previewing in the PDF will essentially show up here in this online view. And again, this resizes, it's accessible, it's keyboard navigable, and so on. And then you download the PDF. You can order prints. Students can order a print book for the nursing series when it publishes individually via Amazon. Or they can order or you as a faculty member can place an order through the bookstore. We do have ISBNs. You can see it. And one other thing on this page, since it's right in front of us, I'll show you. This is our A&P book, but senior contributing authors and then contributing authors and reviewers. These contributing authors are sort of overlapping with the reviewers. They many of them play dual roles. And the instructor resources. So we provide instructor resources around the books. I'll go back to the nursing for this. So that's easy to see. Right. So you'll see coming soon links when they're not there yet. We'll be adding more over time. For instructor assets, you do need to have an account with us because we make sure that we don't provide, we keep answers and test banks out of students' hands as best we can. So we'll verify that you're an instructor or a staff member. If you're a librarian or an instructional designer or somebody like that at an institution, we'll give you access as well. We're just trying to do our best to keep students out. The way you do that is you go to login or register and you create an account. We don't share your information unless you want us to. We might share that a book is adopted at a school, but we don't really share the information about the professors who have logged in or anything like that.
There's also, just to mention, there's also links within the text. For example, you may be discussing a particular condition a client might have, and it'll mention CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or whatever. And that might have been discussed in one of the first chapters when we're looking at approaches to treatment. So people can flip back there and read a little bit more about it and things like that. So it's kind of linked together so that things are not repeated, but there's basic foundational information given.
You're saying between sections and chapters of the text itself too, internally.
There's links back.
We
particular areas because there's no point repeating it all over again. Once they've become familiar with technology or
you'll see this is in the PDF that I'm showing now, but in the online version too, things also, just like David's saying, links between sections of the text or chapters of the text, and then links to the tables, and stuff like that. I know some of this is pretty common, when reading an ebook, but just to make it clear that that's available as well. Okay, so anything else I need to show on the OpenStax site? Again, the other aspect is, we until we publish the books, we don't have these available just yet. We don't sort of publicize them. But OpenStax also, we know that it's not just the textbook publisher or the textbook itself that you use to teach the course. You might use videos, VR environments, homework systems, and so on. So a number of different organizations have, and more all the time, join up with OpenStax to share their resources or their technology, and they integrate our textbooks into that. So you can use, I'm not sure which of the technologies you all use to teach, this course or others like it, but if you use something like a Perusal as an e-reader or commentary, you can use that. Some people are customizing through Xanadu. You can do that as well. And so many of our technology partners integrate our textbooks, and they're used to working with OpenStax textbooks. So if you need that for your course, again, none of it's required, of course. You can use an OpenStax textbook right off the shelf, right off the link. of course. But if you do use other technologies in your courses, as many of you do, you can do that through us as well. So let's go back to the Zoom here. Oops, sorry. So any other, let me just look into chat, any other questions or comments that came in? Thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing some more links. The student resources. So that's a great question. So the student resources, they do vary book to book. Something that we do for all of the books are things like, they're not really nursing specific. They are about study skills, time management guide, studies, test taking, prep, things like that. And then specific, so that's a baseline that we offer for all of our textbooks. And then anything that's specific for the course, I apologize, I should know offhand exactly what student resources are available for this book, but I would assume it would be things like, additional study guides, links to videos, and other resources like that. If there are any activities, the other piece is if there are activities in the textbook that could that are better in students' hands in different formats, like activities they can do, questions they can answer, anything like that. What we'll typically do is provide that in the student hands as a sort of a different type of format. It's kind of sometimes hard for a student to fill out something in a PDF. We'll give it to them in Word or something like that. So that's something that we'll provide as well. The other thing that gets into student resources, I should say, that's where some community developed. We take deep effort to develop the resources to be aligned with the course, to align to the various standards and curricula, and to respond to all the reviewer comments from all around the country. On top of that, though, so that's our responsibility, and we will also make student resources. But the community of nursing educators has resources too, from workbooks and study guides and other resources they have developed, and we'll go ahead and include those. If they're aligned and they make sense and they don't pose any issues regarding copyright or accessibility or something like that, we'll go ahead and share those as well. And we always like to engage on partnerships to develop those, especially if states or institutions have open OER development projects. The THCCB very often sponsors grant programs where faculty from different disciplines create assets in and around OER or for their courses. And these don't have to do anything with OpenStax, but they are great resources that folks can develop. And if we see any develop that align to these courses or that serve these needs, we would certainly include them to get them out to everybody, and to kind of share. Earlier today, we saw the presentation on the social determinants of health workbook. Again, not part of this program, but OpenStax is very glad to share that out with everybody because it seems like a really good resource that people can use across the curriculum. That was just one example. Thank you very much, Amanda, for sharing. Leave a second. Rebecca, David, anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think we've pretty much covered it. I think this is an amazing, collaboration. It's gone through a lot of eyes and a lot of edits and trying to make it the best it can be, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, and I hope people use it, enjoy using it, find it a useful resource, both as students and as educators. I think it's going to be something that they'll find very, very useful and kind of hopefully easy to use and clear to understand.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll mention, so, one thing we haven't really talked about too much is the open licensing. I'll mention that quickly, and then we'll have Dina's going to share some information about the workshops with us. As you saw, hopefully through looking at the table of contents and hearing Rebecca and David speak, this was designed to align to a particular curriculum, and or at least serve in a course that that serve the typical scope and sequence of many of the courses that you all teach. You can use it as an end-to-end resource, as a textbook, or you can use parts of it to fit the needs you have. And like I've said a few times, people do remixing, they do linkages to different, different competencies or assets, or use it as a resource when doing study sessions or tutoring or something like that. You can use it in all those contexts. We love it when people use the full book as it's the sole resource, but OER provides the opportunity to go well beyond that. You can edit it, cut it up, repost pieces of it, put it in your LMS, use it, like I said, in study sessions, discussion settings, and so on, and that and the other resources that go along with it. So, as you explore the assets from the One Summit and hear about other opportunities to use it, we'll be doing more workshops about usage models and implementation and so on. You'll have that ability. So I am going to invite our development partner, Wisewire, has been very, very deeply involved in these books. They coordinate a lot of the editing. They work directly with Rebecca and David. They do bringing in the, all the reviewers, the dozens of faculty reviewers that are submitting feedback. That's it's a pretty robust process. So they provide a great job in doing that. And they are also very deeply involved in nursing education and are offering a couple of workshops on mapping and so on. So I'm going to make Dina panelist real quick, and then I'm going to, I think, get this right this time, where I share the screen properly.
I have another appointment I have to go to,
Okay.
so I'm going to duck out.
Thank you so much, David. So appreciate it.
Glad I was able to get in eventually.
Thank you. Thanks.
He enjoys the product. It's a great product.
Thank you. All right.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anthony. I appreciate the lovely introduction. As Anthony mentioned, we are long-term partners with OpenStax. We have been involved with the authors on the development of this book, and we work really closely with nursing programs. At Wisewire, we're architects of digital learning, and we're really honored to be here. So thank you again. As you saw today, we have a wide range of experts on our team who are really dedicated to enhancing educational content with a real focus on learning outcomes and quality. And because we also provide tailored mapping solutions, we're extending a unique opportunity for One Summit attendees for a mapping deep dive. These will be around 90-minute online sessions, or workshops rather, where our mapping specialists will focus on textbook mapping for your very specific use cases. So we're collecting that data to see what your use cases and goals are, and we hope to map to them. It's a really great opportunity for you to leverage our team and our experts, and they'll be interactive and hands-on, so providing you guys with very practical solutions. So please feel free to sign up at this tiny URL. We're also dropping it in the chat. Thank you, Lindsay. And once we collect your information, we'll decide on times and dates so that we have a good understanding of who's attending. And then we also have another workshop that we're offering. It's an NCLEX prep workshop with our certified NCLEX writing specialists. They will provide more support aligning the books to your goals too. And these sessions will include item writing and customized practice tests as well. So please feel free to sign up. This link is for both of those sessions. And if you have any other questions or comments, you can enter them into the forum or ask Anthony's team. That we'll all be happy to support you. And again, Anthony, thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thank you. That's great. And you see the link in there. Thank you so much for posting. So please, feel free to sign up for those. And if anybody has any questions about that, like Dina said, oops, sorry, I stopped sharing. Like Dina said, glad to answer any questions our team can forward any information on or anything like that as well, but feel free to go to those. And again, any questions you do have about the book, the series, the resources, different ways you can use it, feel free to reach out to info@openstax.org. You can get that information there. Go to the site, take a look at what we have to offer, and then also, like we've said, go ahead and join the OER Texas Hub, or either all of those hubs or groups, or just the one that's pertaining to the course or courses you teach, that's where there will be a lot of information shared as well. Again, thank you so much. We are just as a quick transition. So we're going to talk about the Population Health for Nurses textbook in about 15 minutes. Is that the right? Yes, that's the right time. In about 15 minutes, we'll start that up. And Jessica Oakes from Endicott College will be talking to us about that book. Again, thank you to David who had to take off, and Rebecca, thank you so much for joining and for everything you've done on this book.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope everyone will use the book.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you back if you can make it in about 15 minutes. Thanks. Bye-bye.